Hello friends, today we will discuss the global level initiatives and policies and also at the Indian level policies which have been in the direction of environmental sustainability, so that the sustainable development aims and objectives can be achieved through various kind of programs. So, today we will discuss first of all a little bit introduction about what are the global initiatives and in the direction of sustainable development. Then we will see in a chronological manner what are those initiatives which have been taken at the global level by all the countries, okay, through certain those bodies, international bodies, and then the policies and measures which have been initiated by Indian government to achieve the sustainable development, or especially focused on transportation sector, those things like fuel quality, emission norms, all those things we will discuss. And then we will see what are those mitigating climate change related ideas and policies or technologies which can help us to go towards or to travel towards sustainable development, and ultimately we will conclude today's lecture. So, if we talk about like anthropogenic impacts or the man-made impacts on the environment, then as you know that basically these emissions or the land use change because of several activities, whether industrialization or having infrastructure developments or road construction or railways, whatever kind of infrastructure or man-made activities are there, they influence or impact the environment, which we have discussed in detail during environmental impact assessment, if you may recall. Okay. So, that picture gives this kind of pictorial representation, like there are certain emissions or the land use change kind of activities which will give this vulnerable situation to the climate, and anthropogenic climate change will be induced. Anthropogenic means man-made. Okay. And then because these changes they translate itself into like hazards or vulnerability or exposure. So, health risk assessment kind of things come into picture. So, we can say there are impacts, certain impacts, and those impacts may be positive or negative, but the negative impacts which are kind of risk, positive may be opportunities. Okay. When we do something, then there are of course positive impacts also, like we have greater job opportunities, those kind of things, or if we are having hospitals, etc. So, health benefits are there. So, positive impacts are there, right, but there may be some negative impacts. So, those negative impacts are termed as risk. So, there may be some risk also which we should estimate. And when we talk about like how to solve those human interventions which are leading to negative impacts, then we talk about these three dimensions of economic dimension, ecological dimension and social dimension. So, all these three trade off, there is trade off always, means something we lose, something we gain, right. So, as per our priority, national priority or social priority, we do things, and then it can also result into climate change, and we also do some activities which are for mitigation or adaptation, means we do not, means something change has happened, then we adapt to that, right. So, adaptation is also a great strategy, because all over these centuries or millennium kind of activities, if we look into, then lot of things are there which really give signals or signs that we have adapted. Okay. That is why we are now not only on the land mass, but in oceans, so many activities of the human, in space also. So, as per technological inventions and then adaptation as per the situation of sea or ocean or the land or deserts, you just name it, and everywhere whatever harsh climate may be there, harsh weather may be there, but we have adapted by technological usage or application of science and technology, you can say. So, that is there, and this you can see this integrated cost assessment, and because economic features are there, and then co-benefits are also there, like if you are reducing let us say greenhouse gas emissions, and within this effort you also end up reducing some air pollutants also. So, those kind of co-benefits can be there. In economic terms, other benefits may be there, like you are having one industry to meet some certain demands, and with that industry we also gain other benefits because of related infrastructure development, those kind of things. So, all these things we have to integrate, and we have seen other in other slides or other presentations also. Now, if we talk about those important global initiatives which have been taken by collective efforts by governments, means all the countries governments are participating in these kind of efforts through United Nations bodies meant for protecting the climate, protecting the environment. So, the first this conference, United Nations conference on the human environment, it took place in 1972. Okay, that was the first effort to kind of highlight it or to make aware all the governments and to make it on the important agenda kind of thing. Then this Brundtland report came into existence in 1987. That was kind of very important milestone in that direction, because it defined our aims and objectives and what are challenges are there. Then this in 1992 Rio Earth Summit was there. Okay. And that way you can see in this list in 1994 this Barbados program of action, okay, BPOA, that was initiated in 1994. Then the Kyoto protocol was initiated in 1997, and then after 5 years of this BPOA plus 5 in 1999, it was again put into place. Then World Summit on Sustainable Development in 2002, okay, that was there. Then BPOA plus 10 means after 10 years after this 1994. So, in 2005 this was again discussed, and many decisions were made. Then United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, that is UNSCSD in 2012, that was very important gathering, in several decisions were made. And thereafter in 2015 United Nations this UNSCSD summit was organized, and the Paris agreement was in 2015, and thereafter also there are many meetings of this international level are going on, and several decisions are being made, and commitments are also made by governments, so that we can move towards sustainable development path. Okay. So, the three main categories were also part of the action plan, like global environmental assessment program, that is the WATCH plan, and then environmental management activities properly those listed, and international measures to support assessment and management activities which are carried out at the national and international level. So, this was very important kind of activity from environmental or sustainable perspective. Well, then framework of the environmental action plan of this 1972 United Nations conference on human environment was published, and it was kind of commitment was made by participating countries. So, you can see like assessment was evaluation and review, research, monitoring, information exchange, those were the part of the exchange in the environmental assessment. For management, like some setting of the goals, goal setting, and then planning to achieve those goals, international consultation and agreements, all those things were properly planned. And then supporting measures, so that these can be carried out properly. So, capacity building, education and training, okay, and then financing also, how much money should be given by the relevant ministry, appropriate ministry, and how public information should be given, so that more and more awareness comes in the public towards the environmental sustainability. Well, if you talk about this Brundtland report, which is known also like Our Common Future, that was the name of the report. It was in 1987. So, that was the part of this formulation of this report from World Commission on Environment and Development, WCED. Okay. So, in October 1987 it was published by United Nations, and it is also known as Our Common Future. And then environmental issues were kind of in political agenda. That was the first time it was taken into account as a political agenda, so that political will can be exercised and every country can have certain commitments to meet. Okay. At that time this definition of sustainable development, proper official definition came into picture, and that was like we should go for that kind of development which can meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. That was the first definition. Of course, afterwards several schools of thoughts and several thought leaders, they challenged this definition and they came up with other definitions of sustainable development. And because the resources and capacities can be different in different ages. Okay. So, those were the issues. Outcome of this Brundtland report was like long term environmental strategies were formulated. Okay. And then it was also decided that we should do those kind of activities, intergovernmental activities, participatory activities which can lead to the achievement of common and mutually supportive objectives, okay, that account for all kind of development like interrelationships between people, resources, environment and the development activities. So, nothing is left out. The integrated approach or holistic approach, that was the time when it was with full force it was discussed and debated and put into policy measures and action plans also. Okay. So, the ways and means by which the international community can deal more effectively with the environmental concerns was the part of this our common future report. Okay. And to help define all shared perceptions which may be positive, negative, but for the long term environmental issues, this was the kind of first effort which was made so collectively and forcefully, I would say. Well, then this was the Rio Earth Summit from 3rd to 14th June in 1992, and this Rio Summit is also known like UNSCD Earth Summit or Rio Convention. Okay, that was also important milestone in that direction, and the objective, the main ultimate objective which was decided during this convention, it was like to adopt the UN framework on climate change, UNFCCC. That was very important initiative at that time, and it was decided that the objective should be like to stabilize atmospheric concentrations of greenhouse gases, because almost it was agreed, although IPCC reports every after certain years they publish this report and they give what are the concentration of CO2 and what kind of activities or policies are people or countries are following to reduce the greenhouse gas concentration into the atmosphere. But it was in 1992 when with very dedication and very commitment, this was decided that we should reduce the global concentration or atmospheric concentration of greenhouse gases, so that the dangerous anthropogenic interferences in the climate change or climate system can be avoided. Otherwise, it may be very problematic in terms of so many problems, whether sea level rise or different kind of precipitation patterns and all those storms, etc. Okay. And then it was concluded that the concept of sustainable development is an attainable goal. It is not like just to think and debate, but something which is attainable within a time framework, within a time frame, and it can be kind of part of all activities at the local level, national level, regional level and international level. So, means the whole this critical mass was achieved at that time in terms of thought leadership, you can say. Okay. Then this Barbados program of action BPOA on 25th April to 6th May, this was the conference, and again those principles and commitments for the sustainable development were reaffirmed, and agenda 21 of this UNCED Earth Summit of 1992, that was again it was commitment was repeated that we should go for that with dedication, and 14 priority areas were also decided in this particular conference of 1994 BPOA. So, these 14 priority areas are listed here, like climate change and the sea level rise are very important issues, and the natural and environmental disasters, they can be avoided if human interventions can be properly managed, right. Then management of wastes, because that is also very important. If our way of waste management is like harmful in terms of its practices, then also we should take care of it properly. Coastal and marine resources, freshwater resources, several kind of resources were the part of these 14 priority areas. Okay, regional institutions and technical cooperation, all those, human resource development. So, with the focus on sustainable development, all these priority areas were listed and work started to focus on those priority areas. Then in 1997, the Kyoto Protocol was decided and it was adopted, and 192 parties, 192 countries signed this and they agreed. Okay, they agreed in 2005 to complex ratifications of this process afterwards, right. And then UNFCCC also gave this kind of commitment for industrialized countries. So, they were responsible for so many greenhouse gas, so much quantity of greenhouse gas emissions, because rapid industrialization and energy intensive activities. So, those kind of decisions were made that these industrialized or developed economies will have more responsibility, their commitment will be more in comparison to those developing countries which are still making efforts to fulfill energy related needs to their citizens. Okay. So, the rigorous monitoring and review and verification system was also established properly. So, that was a very good decision at that time during Kyoto Protocol, and these are the greenhouse gases, CO2, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and then these HFCs, hydrofluorocarbons, or these PFCs and SF6. These 6 were categorized properly, that we should focus on reduction of these 6 greenhouse gases, so that we can achieve this target of reducing the amount of CO2 equivalent in a great way. Well, then after 5 years of 1994 of this BPOA, this BPOA plus 5 was organized in 1999. So, the 5-year review was kind of this program action, and it was adopted the state of the progress and initiatives for the future implementation of the program of action for the sustainable development. And then 6 problems were identified. These 6 problem areas are basically like climate change, natural and environmental disasters, and climate variability, because if you have long list then sometimes it becomes difficult. So, they narrowed down so that priority areas can be narrowed and more activities can be taken into account. Freshwater resources, coastal and marine resources, then energy related issues in like developing renewable resources for the energy, okay, solar and other. Tourism should be like in that way, so that the environmental those resources can be protected and cultural integrity must be protected. So, tourism industry should reshape itself in that way, it should not harm the environment by this activity. Well, in 2002 this World Summit on Sustainable Development in South Africa, it was organized in and it is also known as Johannesburg Summit or Earth Summit 2002, and the focus of this summit was to give proper attention and direct the actions or resources towards meeting difficult challenges, including like improving people's lives and conserving natural resources. And the focused areas for these challenges were like growing population, because population is rapidly growing in all parts except some developed economies where population growth is not so much, but in developing countries the population growth is quite high. And then this increasing demands for food, because if population is growing then need of the food is also growing, shelter for the need, sanitation, energy, health, all those kind of activities which are related to meeting the demands of the population. These are the focused areas so that they can be met without harming the environment, so that it can be a sustainable way of life. After 10 years of that BPOA, so in 2005 10-year review was conducted, okay. That is also known as Mauritius strategy for implementation, right. And the focus on additional key areas were also decided, like trade, sustainable production and consumption, health issues, knowledge management and culture, because in this digital age now this data science, knowledge management is also becoming very crucial and important thing, and the culture also, like without affecting the local culture can we have the development. Okay, development should not be like if we lose our roots, that is also not good, right, because roots give you very confident kind of viewpoint or world view of the reality. Well, when we talk about this UNCSD that was held on 20th June to 22nd June in 2012, this Rio plus 20 after Rio's 20 years. Okay. So, this is also known as Rio plus 20, United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. Okay. So, this resulted in focused political outcome, as I said earlier, because earlier discussions were on in more like scientific groups and technocrats or those researchers or NGOs, etc. But now this political will was also tested, and countries heads were requested to make commitments. So, that was the time when it was became the part of political programs in each country. And then green economy for achieving sustainable development, that was the groundbreaking guideline for across the world. All countries, governments were given this kind of mandate that we should develop in that direction, and some countries became very serious in that direction. For example, I will give you later on some data where you will know that India is making great efforts towards these renewable resources. Okay. Well, in New York in 2015 this UNSD summit was held, and the agenda for sustainable development was like what will happen in 2030. So, that was the futuristic kind of agenda, and how can we transform our world with that perspective, that long term kind of perspective. And the 17 sustainable development goals were decided at that time with 169 associated targets. So, as you know, these SDGs always you read in several policy documents. So, in 2015 in New York, this was the first time when these 17 sustainable development goals were decided. So, that was very important kind of initiative in at that time. So, these are the sustainable development goals, 17 goals for transforming our world. You can see no poverty, zero hunger, all those you can see, gender equality. So, all important aspects have been taken into account to achieve the sustainable development, you can say. In Paris in 2015 this agreement was done on 12th December. This was the legally binding kind of international treaty, and 196 countries signed on that. So, this came into force in 2016 next year on 4th November, and then the goals were like to limit the global warming to below 2 degree Celsius beyond that which was pre-industrial era temperature of the global atmosphere, or preferably 1.5 degree. Okay. So, that kind of target was set so that these greenhouse gas emissions can be reduced to achieve these targets. That was very very important goal at that at that conference, and to achieve the climate neutral world by mid century, that was also decided at that time. So, that because it is not a one day job, every economy has certain strengths and weaknesses. If you are shifting from this carbon based economy or fossil fuel based economy towards renewable and zero carbon kind of or zero carbon emissions kind of economy, then lot of efforts have to be made. So much infrastructure is there, you can't just wish away that thing. So, lot of investment is also needed, it is not one day job. That is why this long term target was decided. Well, so Paris climate agreement basically you can see this 1.5 degrees Celsius beyond this pre-industrial era concentration temperature that was decided, although 2 degree, but 1.5 was the targeted. You can see how close we are up to 1.5 degree, that is beyond that it will be kind of catastrophic for our human existence. So, you can see we are presently this climate uncertainties of course there, human induced warming warming trend you can see. So 2017 it was there around 1 degree Celsius already, okay, and it could reach like 1.5, and beyond that scientists warn that it would be difficult to survive on this planet, right. So much problems may be there because of this temperature increase. So you can see we are here at present around 1 degree Celsius. This pre-industrial average is set 0 you can say, and beyond that. So some, if countries fulfill their voluntary pledges, then we can go for 3 degree or so, but this is the target upper limit set by Paris agreement, 2 degree, beyond that we should not go, okay. This is the aim and objective. Now after global, means even after 2015 there have been several meetings, global international treaties and meetings, but now I will shift my focus on Indian transportation policy. Okay. So you have seen the global policy initiatives for sustainable development. Now we will see what India is doing in that direction from transportation perspective, because our course is sustainable transportation. So you can see here there are certain ministries like surface transport, Ministry of Environment and Forest, Ministry of Petroleum, Natural Gas, State Pollution Control Boards, Regional Transport Office. All these are working in a very integrated way to implement certain policies which we will discuss now. So National Action Plan on Climate Change has been decided in 2008, it was adopted. Okay. So accordingly commitments are there which our government is fulfilling timely. Every year they submit reports and so on. Then if we talk about missions of this NAPCC, so they are comprised of 8 national missions like promoting solar energy. So this is the area where Government of India has achieved great results, and in fact they are having big plants through solar energy. So lot of share we can expect in future from solar. Okay. Improve energy efficiency, domestic, commercial or industrial. So the technology should be energy efficient rather energy intensive, that direction we have to take. Then encourage sustainable urban planning so that people do not need to move transport one place to another for meeting their demands. So that sustainable urban planning has to be there. Then to ensure sustainable water supply. Okay, you might be knowing that Government of India is committed to give safe water and pure water up to the household, okay, up to your family or at your door, house door. So that kind of programs are there. So sustainable water supply, and then sustainable remunerative climate resilient agriculture, so that we are not dependent on those kind of practices which are harmful. Okay. We should go for eco-centric development in agriculture, in other areas also. Then to address climate change impacts on Himalayas, because our many rivers are fed by those glaciers and we need to protect the Himalayas ecosystem. Then we need to manage forest from perspective of climate change, because forests are great sink of CO2 greenhouse gas, that also they provide us so many things including rains etc. Because of forest we have that kind of weather pattern. Create a comprehensive knowledge system so that it informs and supports climate change action in India. So that kind of digital and information ecosystem is to be developed. So eight missions were part of this NAPCC. Then Niti Aayog had something in their policy documents like transforming our world 2030 agenda for sustainable development in September 2015. Okay, this SDGs. So they were given Niti Aayog has adopted them to incorporate in several policy measures you can say. So the central government Niti Aayog has been assigned the role of overseeing the implementation of these sustainable development goals in the country. So whatever industrial related policies or transport related policies are there, we have to be focused on SDGs. And you might have heard that now decarbonizing transportation sector is a big issue with the support of Niti Aayog, which government is moving towards, and this industry of transportation is moving towards. Niti Aayog has organized several national and regional level consultations to spread awareness about these SDGs and to bring together all stakeholders. Okay. so that we can build the capacities for realization of these sustainable development goals, because they are good for society, good for economy, good for the whole world, you can say. Well, so the SDG India Index baseline report in 2018, it was released by Niti Aayog, so that we are you can say ki we are properly committed, and we have a proper document, a guideline document which we will adopt to move towards achieving these SDGs. So, this is the aims of this report, you can say, holistic view to the social, economic and environmental status of the country, and at the states or union territories level, you can say, and then track the progress, how to monitor. Okay. So, monitoring of this progress and certain priority indicators, because if those indicators are met, then we can say that we are moving towards achieving the SDGs. This is major environmental acts and rules in India, which are helping us to protect the environment and achieving our sustainable environment or sustainable life in overall sense. The Water Prevention Control Pollution Act 1974. So, since long, and India is very much committed towards the environmental awareness, environmental protection and conservation. Then this Water Prevention Cess Act was 1977. In 1981, this Air Prevention and Control Pollution Act was enacted, and this Environmental Protection Act in 1986, that was brought into place. Then this Environmental Impact Assessment Notification, nowadays it is being revised, and then Hazardous Waste Public Liability Insurance Act, National Environmental Tribunal Act, okay. This NET Act was there, this National Environmental this Authority Act and the Noise Pollution Regulation Control Rules. All these were towards fulfilling our commitment to protect the environment and having better life. Okay, these are the policies in terms of emission reduction from the vehicles. So, you can see they are Bharat Stage 1, Bharat Stage 2, these Euro 1, Euro 2 related. Now, from 4 we are directly jumping towards Bharat Stage 6 or Euro 6. That is a big decision of the government, so that the technology may be more energy efficient and very less amount of pollution should be emitted by those technologies. The norms of the fuel quality improvement have been there in focus. So, since 1996 several initiatives are there, like only 0.5% sulfur diesel was allowed in 96. In 1998 2T oil was introduced, okay, for low smoke, then phasing out of 15-year-old vehicles in 1998. So, that way you can see several diesel and means low sulfur diesel related policies were implemented year to year, like up to 2005. Here also you can see like unleaded petrol, that was in different phases it was implemented, unleaded petrol in cities, then entire India. Similarly, this benzene free gasoline benzene reduction program also implemented. So, from 5% in April 1996, 3% in 2010. Okay. So, those kind of reduction measures are being implemented. If you think about emission norms, so you can see like Euro 2nd in 11 cities in 2005, and in entire country there was this Euro 3. So, stages, because we cannot just go for complete country in a one go, we have to implement these things stage wise or phase wise. Okay. Diesel sulfur reduction, as you have already seen in that table. So, that program was also there to have ultra low sulfur diesel. Well, you can see these characteristics of the gasoline. So, over the years like from 2000 to 2020, if you see from VS Bharat Stage 2nd to Bharat Stage 6. So, all these sulfur content related reduction is there, whatever your lead content you can see very low now from 0.013 to 0.005. Okay. So, benzene like here 3 to 1%. So, those kind of targets have been achieved. That is a great achievement if you look at the Indian perspective. Similarly, decreasing trends of emissions because of these norms, when we are having better norms, Bharat Stage 2, 3, 4 and then 6. So, naturally emissions are also reducing or decreasing. Trends of NOx norms you can see, okay. Particulate matters are also decreasing, right. So, that way light duty vehicles or 2, 3 these wheelers also they are having better kind of picture. Decreasing trends of regulated pollutants due to emission norms. Okay, you can see these pictorial representation of regulated pollutants from the cars and all those. So, reduction is there over the years, okay, up to 2020. So, this pictorial representation give from 21.6 only 6.67. So, that kind of trend is there. Well, if we go for like measures for this electrification of the villages. So, that is great achievement has been seen, because otherwise people use different kind of fuels to have light also earlier, those kerosene etc., kerosene bulb, kerosene kind of lamp etc., we used to use in our childhood, but now electrification is there in the villages, and also clean cooking fuel is there for this Ujjwala Yojana is there. According to that, many families, poor families have been given this LPG connections, liquid petroleum gas. So, that better energy efficient chulas they use, so less pollution is there. Those kind of initiatives by with the help of Niti Aayog, this have been there. And this energy saving appliances reduction of CO2 emissions. Okay, so, this reaches 20 million tons of reduction, you can say globally. So, India stands third in renewable power, that is a great achievement in that sense, and fourth in the wind power and fifth in the solar power. But slowly it is increasing, and I am sure that it will have more share of these renewable resources in the kitty of total energy harnessing or energy usage. Sustainable related like initiatives and achievements since 2015, if you see, like world's largest renewable energy expansion program by 2030 we are having. This is already going on. Okay. And then you can see these 30% in 2020, the total electricity generation from renewable energy, 30% it was in 2014. So, day by day we are year by year we are increasing the share of renewable resources. Localization imperative, like local level activities we are also increasing, because that also boost SDGs. If you are implementing certain policy measures at the local level, so that you do not need to have this need of the movement or mobility for several kilometers. If you can fulfill many of your materialistic demands at the local level, that is a good, like Mahatma Gandhi said that we should have this Swaraj Gram, okay, Gram Swaraj, those kind of things. So, if we can have that kind of economy, that benefits the environment as well as the society also. So, these are the localized SDGs, the sustainable development goals are listed here, which can be through nodal institutions like district level or panchayat level kind of activities may be there, and they may be responsible. Then there is 8-step framework for localizing SDGs. So, the sensitization is important, then state and district indicator framework must be implemented, so that we know whether progress is being made or not. We have to improve this data ecosystem, so that nothing is imagination or nothing is hypothesis, okay, assumption like that. We should be focused on data based kind of ecosystem. Then building partnerships at several levels, whether local, regional, and then this coordinator center must be there who is responsible for SDGs, okay, those activities. And operationalize this dashboard, so that information is available to everybody, and review mechanism must be there, ranking of districts according to the SDGs, so that if some district is achieving better goals, then they should be recognized. So, that healthy competition may be there. If we talk about national indicator framework, then also there are 297 indicators across these 17 SDGs. Okay. So, those indicators help us to know that we are moving towards achieving SDGs or not. Okay. Niti Aayog developed these SDG India Index in 2018, and there are many measures which have been taken place through Niti Aayog and through several institutions of the government which are helping us to achieve SDGs. At the state level, district level, all those indicator framework have been properly implemented. So, that way it is a very systematic approach from top to the low, the end, you can say district level or block level kind of activities are going on to achieve the SDGs. So, we are very much committed in that sense. Policy roadmaps of electric vehicles are also coming in a big way, and alternate fuels, as we have seen in other presentations also, that we are going towards this vehicles or electric vehicles or battery based vehicles. So, that will give us a big boost in reducing pollution as well as reduction of greenhouse gases. So, you can see these are the alternate fuel which we have already discussed in another presentation. So, I will just skip them, and you can see all these slides we have already discussed in that presentation. You can go through them again, right. So, the National Electric Mobility Mission Plan have been there. Okay. So, that is giving complete focus and tremendous force towards moving from fossil fuel based transportation system to electric or battery based transportation system. So, this even on 15th August, if you remember, our Prime Minister has announced that we are committed towards hydrogen cell and hydrogen fuel, hydrogen economy kind of thing. So, that will give us this great motivation and inspiration to move towards the renewable resources based our transportation system. Okay. So, the objectives of this NEMMP 2020 is like having hybrid and electric vehicles, promoting R&D in that sense for battery technology, like Atmanirbhar, self-reliant kind of technology can be there in battery, power electronics, motor systems, integrations, all those, promoting charging infrastructure, so that you do not feel scared that your battery will be discharged, how will you move. Okay. So, as we have petrol pumps, so we can have those charging infrastructure in place, so that you can move comfortably from one place to another. So, these are the targeted roadmap for NEMP you can see, which is very ambitious, but we will achieve in that sense. Then this faster adoption and manufacturing hybrid and electric vehicles are in the top priority policies of the government of India. So, that way we are moving very fast in that direction, and you will see that in few years we will have many battery operated or electric or hybrid vehicles. Already IIT Roorkee has 2 cars of this battery operated. If you want to, those students who are studying in IIT Roorkee, they can easily see and use those cars. If you talk about current status of FAME scheme, then you can see like more than 1 lakh vehicles have been already sold, and there are other figures which like CO2 reduction in kg, this much amount, and per day this much amount of CO2 reduction is being achieved by those kind of initiatives. Well, there are challenges because like range anxiety, as I said, people may feel if my battery exhausts in midway, then what will happen. So, infrastructure is needed, and that way government and public private partnership related infrastructure development is going on. High prices of EVs, so subsidies may be given to reduce the price of the electric vehicles. Then the technology of battery has to be indigenous, otherwise it may be problem. Consumer perception, okay, those that has to be converted from negative to positive because of this lacking of charging infrastructure. Once this charging infrastructure takes place, people will be very confident to take vehicle several hundred kilometers also. So, these are the things which are challenges in Indian context, and then but if we go for this Niti Aayog related systematic approach from national level to district and block level kind of indicators and different institutional setup to achieve those goals, then it can be easily achieved. And these are like interlinking of different policies and climate change related issues. So, we can have sustainable development, and the climate change related policies can lead us to the sustainable development, and sustainable development policies can lead us to better climate change related policies. So, these are interrelated basically. The common mitigation approach can be there, which can identify certain barriers, how to like cost related implementation challenges may be there. So, how to overcome those barriers. So, if we can identify those barriers and opportunities, it is easy to address them. Well, if we talk about conclusions and the way forward, then it is the basic eco-centric development which we should focus and move towards. So, the green transition, green jobs, sustainable and inclusive growth, okay, investment in sustainable solutions related like subsidies towards electric vehicles. Okay, and subsidies to fossil fuel must end, only then people will be more comfortably transiting from fossil fuel to these renewable resources. So, whatever is harming the environment, we should not give them subsidy. Very simple thing. Polluters must pay their pollution. That is the policy which we should stick to. Confront all climate related risk, and we should cooperate with the at the country level, at international level, so that we can collectively achieve this sustainable development goals related issues. And this is all for today's presentation, so that these initiatives and policies will give you a good picture that how to move towards sustainable development and sustainable transportation, as we have seen. These are the references for additional information. So, thank you for your kind attention. See you again. Thanks.